Okay, so we've been working on trig functions, trigonometric functions. That's the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. We have SOHCAHTOA to help us remember which one is which and how they go together. So the sine, so we use the first letter, sine, S for sine, C for cosine, T for tangent, and then the other letters refer to the second part. This is the ratio. So OH stands for opposite over the hypotenuse. CAH is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and OA is the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so far we've talked about the tangent, and now we're going to talk about the sine and the cosine. Sine, cosine, tangent, all three of them, they're used the same way. I mean, there's no real difference. The only difference is we have to decide which one to use based on the information we have and the information we're using. So in other words, which sides do we have, or which sides are we looking for? So let's say we have some information. So here we have a triangle, and none of the information is given to us. So we're going to start off, and we're going to make up a problem. So we're going to say this angle right here, Q at this vertex, is going to be angle Q. And let's say it's 15 degrees. Okay, so, and then let's say G, which is this side right here, let's say this one right here is equal to, I don't know, 10. And we're trying to find out E. Well, if we look at this side right here is 50, I mean, this angle right here is angle Q. The side right here is next to it. So F is the opposite side, straight across, that's our opposite side. But the one we're trying to find is E, which is our adjacent side. Okay, we know the angle, so the measure of angle Q equals 15, and we know our hypotenuse, which is G, because straight across from R, our hypotenuse G equals 10. So we look here at our information. We have our angle, but we're trying to find E. And now remember, E, like I said, is our adjacent side. So look at where the adjacent shows up. Here and here. Now, so we want to highlight that because that's what we're trying to look for. It's not going to do us any good here to find this one because, well, we're not looking for the opposite side. We're looking for the adjacent. We can use the angle measure with any one of these three, and then the hypotenuse has to be in the equation as well. So here we have an adjacent, but there's no hypotenuse. We have hypotenuse here, and we have hypotenuse here. So we're looking for the one that has the most information that we can use, and that's the cosine. So we're going to say the cosine of Q is equal to our adjacent side, which is E over G. And then we're going to substitute everything in. So Q, the measure of Q, is 15. So we're going to say cosine of 15 degrees is equal to E, which we don't know, so we're not going to substitute anything. And then G, we know what G is, so we're going to plug that in, 10. Now we want to, since we're trying to find out what E is, we have to get E all by itself. And we can do that by multiplying both sides by 10, and we end up with E all by itself. We have 10 times the cosine of 15 degrees. And from here, it's just a matter of using your calculator. So we're going to go 10, oops, turn it on, 10 times the cosine of 15 degrees. Calculate it, and we get 9.659. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to round this one off. I should have said this at the beginning. Let's round this one off to the nearest whole number. So the whole numbers, oops, I'm sorry. So the whole numbers are all the counting numbers include, and then plus 0. So 0, 1, 2, no fractions, no decimals. So the first whole number, if we look at it, would be the one in the ones place. So 3, 4, 5, 345. That's a whole number. Once we turn it into a decimal, it's no longer a whole number. If we're going to round this off to the nearest whole number, then it's to that place right there, the ones place. So our answer was 9.659. And then it keeps going. Nearest whole number is that place right here. We want to look at that together, 96. So the question is 9.6 or 96 if we ignore the decimal. Is that closer to the one above it, which is 100, or 90, the one below it? And 9.6 is going to be closer to, or 96 is closer to 100. Move that decimal up there, and so it's 10. So our answer will be that E is about equal to 10. So that's how you do that. Okay, so that one we used the cosine. If we're looking for a different side, let's say we're looking for E instead, well, then we would do the same thing, but we would use the opposite side and the hypotenuse. Okay, now let's do another problem. In this case, let's say, well, we can use the same number. Let's use 15 degrees for our angle. But we're going to change this up here a little bit. So we're going to say that F is equal to 12. And we're going to try to find out what G is. So find G, F equals 12, and measure angle Q equals 15 degrees. So G, well, it's straight across from angle R, which is where the right angle is located. G is our hypotenuse. 12 is directly across from this angle, and so that's the opposite. It's opposite of angle Q. And then measure angle Q is our angle. So we want to look again and figure out, well, which ones, what do we have? Hypotenuse is located there, not over here. The opposite, we have it here, but not here. So we're going to be using this one right here. Remember this, the angle, we can calculate the tangent of tangent, cosine, or sine. So that part isn't going to be what we're using for the decision making. It's the sides in this case. So now when we set this up, we're using the sine. And so that's the sine of Q. It's going to be the opposite, which is F, over the hypotenuse, which is G. And then you just plug things in. So the sine of Q is 15 degrees. F is 12. And we don't know what G is, so we're going to leave that there. So we do this the same way, but because the variables in the denominator, it's slightly more involved. So we're going to cross multiply here. So I added the 1 underneath here, and we're going to cross multiply, and we get G times the sine of 15 equals 12. We're still trying to get G by itself, so we want to cancel that out. The way we can do that is by dividing both sides by sine of 15. That'll cancel. We're left with G equals 12 over the sine of 15. So now, when you calculate this, and let's round this one off to the nearest 10th place. Okay, so we're going to round this off to the nearest tenth place. And so the way we calculate that is we say 12 divided by the sine of 15 equals, and what do we have? 46.364. Now that's our tenths place, right? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, ones, tens. So that's the tenths place. We want to round it off here. So we're going to look at 36 or 36. Is that closer to 40? Closer to 30? It's closer to 40. So when we round this off, it's going to be 46.4. We don't need the 0. We're going to leave it. We're going to write it at 4. And there we have that answer.